Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah.
And today we're tackling something I think is pretty important to a lot of our listeners out there.
Hmm.
And that is careers.
Yes.
You know, those things that we end up spending a lot of our time doing.
A lot of time.
And we're going to try to help you figure out how to make those careers the best they possibly can be.
Yeah.
So the source material we're working with today
Yeah.
is a YouTube podcast script
Okay.
called How to Find Your Dream Career.
Right.
And there's a lot of really interesting stuff in here.
Yeah, there's a stat in here that I thought was really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
It said something like, we spend 90,000 hours at work over our lifetime,
Wow.
which is crazy when you think about it.
Yeah.
It's like, so you better like what you're doing, you know?
It's not just a job. It's like a huge chunk of your life.
Yeah.
So how do we make those 90,000 hours
Right.
not feel like a prison sentence?
Well, that's what this podcast episode or this YouTube script
Right.
is trying to get at.
Yeah, it lays out 5 steps to help you on your journey to finding your dream career.
Yes.
And I really like how it's broken down into these steps because it makes it seem a lot more manageable
Yeah.
than just like, oh my gosh, I have to figure out my whole life.
Right.
So step 1.
Okay, step 1. This is a big one.
Yeah,
Identifying your passions.
right.
And I think this is where people get tripped up sometimes,
Yeah,
because it's not just about like listing the things you enjoy.
yeah,
It's about like understanding what truly lights you up.
yeah.
Like, what are the things that make you completely lose track of time?
What do you get lost in doing?
Yeah. Even if they don't seem practical, you know?
Right, or like you could make money doing them,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
which actually I think is a really big point that a lot of people get stuck on.
Oh, totally.
They're like, oh, I love doing this, but how am I going to make a living?
Right. Exactly.
And then they just kind of dismiss those things.
And you know what? Passions can evolve over time too.
Yeah,
Like, what excited you 5 years ago might be totally different than what excites you now.
totally.
So, don't be afraid to revisit this step periodically
Right.
and just see how your passions may have shifted or expanded.
That's so interesting because I feel like a lot of career advice is like, figure out your passion and then go do that.
Right.
But it doesn't really acknowledge that people change.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a really good point.
Mhm.
All right, so step 1, identify your passions.
Identify your passions.
Step 2, assess your skills.
Yes.
And when you hear the word skills, most people immediately think like computer skills or
Like technical skills.
yeah, technical skills. But it's so much more than that.
It is.
And the source does a really good job of explaining
Yeah.
that like there are so many different kinds of skills that are valuable,
Mm-hmm.
and you probably have a lot of them that you don't even realize.
It's about recognizing your strengths,
Right.
both hard and soft skills.
Yeah.
So communication, problem solving, leadership.
Those soft skills are so important.
Yes.
And sometimes even more important than those hard skills because you can always learn those.
Absolutely.
But if
Yeah.
you don't have like the ability to communicate or work with others or like lead a team,
Right.
then it doesn't really matter how good you are at that technical skill.
Exactly.
So think about,
Yeah.
as you're thinking about your passions,
Mm-hmm.
I would say also jot down like, what are your skills?
Take inventory.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
what are you naturally good at?
What are you good at?
What do people always compliment you on?
What comes easily to you?
Yeah, like what are those things?
Yes. And remember, skills can be developed and honed over time.
Yeah.
So this step is about taking inventory of your existing strengths
Right.
and then identifying areas where you might want to grow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so step 3 is researching career options.
Yes. This is where we start to connect the dots
Yeah.
between our passions and our skills.
Yeah. And to do this research, effectively, the source recommends using some specific tools,
Yes.
like websites and stuff.
Yeah. They mentioned LinkedIn and Glassdoor.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever used those?
I have used LinkedIn. I actually use that pretty frequently.
Yeah.
To just kind of see what's out there
What's out there?
and also to kind of connect with people
Mm-hmm.
because you can kind of see like who's working where and what they're doing.
Yeah. It's really good for networking.
Yeah. And Glassdoor, I haven't used as much.
Glassdoor is really good for like company culture and
Okay.
salary ranges.
Oh,
So
interesting.
you can get a better sense of like what the environment is like at different companies.
Right. And like what to expect
Yeah.
in terms of like salary and benefits and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's super helpful.
Yeah.
But then it goes beyond just the online research.
Yes.
And I think this is really, really important.
Very important.
Is it talks about talking to people,
Yes.
like actually going out and having conversations with people.
Informational interviews, they call them.
Yeah, informational interviews. And I think a lot of people are kind of intimidated by that.
I think so too.
but it can be so valuable.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you can learn so much more from talking to someone
Yes.
than you can from just reading a website.
Totally agree.
So do you have any tips for like how to actually go about?
Right. So for informational interviews,
Yeah.
I think the first step is to identify people in your network
Okay.
who are working in fields that you're interested in.
Right. So like reaching out to people you already know.
Exactly. Start with who you know.
Okay.
And if you don't know anyone personally,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to reach out to people on LinkedIn.
Oh, okay.
Send a personalized message
Yeah.
expressing your interest and asking for a brief informational interview.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people are afraid to do that.
I know.
But I think most people are actually really happy to
Oh,
share
yeah.
their experience.
Especially if they're passionate about their work.
Right.
They love to talk about it.
Yeah. And it's flattering, you
Right.
know, when someone's like, hey, I admire what you do. I'd love to learn more.
And I think it's important to remember that informational interviews
Yeah.
are a two-way street.
Right.
So come prepared with thoughtful questions.
Yes.
Be an active listener and be sure to follow up with a thank you note
Yes. Always follow.
expressing your gratitude.
Yeah. Okay. So now moving on to step 4, which is
Okay.
taking action.
Taking action.
This is where the rubber meets the road.
This is where we move from dreaming to doing.
Yes. And it's easy to get overwhelmed, you know,
Sure.
when thinking about like big career changes.
Right.
But the source really emphasizes the importance of breaking it down into manageable steps.
Yes.
So what's like one small action
One small act
you could take today
today.
to move closer to your dream career?
I love that.
Yeah.
It could be as simple as like spending 30 minutes researching a specific career path
Yeah.
or connecting with someone new on LinkedIn.
Right. Or like reading an article about something you're interested in.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be this huge thing. It's just like taking one little step.
The point is to build momentum.
Yes. And I think that's so important
Yeah.
because it's easy to get paralyzed by inaction,
Totally.
you know, when you're just thinking about this big goal.
Right. It seems so daunting.
But if you just focus on taking one tiny step,
One tiny step.
then it feels a lot more manageable.
It does. And, don't underestimate the power of celebrating small wins along the way.
Oh, that's so important.
Every step you take towards your goal is a victory.
Right, like acknowledge that you're making progress.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've reached the final step, which is trusting the process.
Trusting the process. My favorite.
This is a big one.
It is.
And I think it's especially important for people who are, you know, maybe feeling a little bit lost or uncertain about their career path.
Absolutely.
Because it's not always going to be a straight line.
No. It's rarely a linear path.
You know, there's going to be twists and turns and...
Detours.
Yeah, detours and setbacks.
And moments of doubt.
Yes, moments of doubt.
You'll question everything.
But the source reminds us that it's not about reaching like a final destination.
It's about the journey.
Yeah, it's about the journey and it's about, you know, continually evolving and growing.
Yes.
In a way that aligns with your passions and values.
And sometimes those detours lead to the most amazing discoveries.
Right. It's like, you know, you think you're going one way
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden you end up somewhere completely different.
And it's even better.
And it's even better. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a really important point to remember.
Embrace the journey.
Yeah.
Trust that you're exactly where you need to be.
Okay, so we've talked about these 5 key steps to finding a fulfilling career.
Yes.
But the source doesn't stop there.
Bye.
It also recommends some really interesting resources that I think can be really helpful
Let's hear them.
for people who are, you know, wanting to actually put these steps into action.
Yes.
So there are a couple books that are mentioned.
Right.
One is called Designing Your Life.
Ooh, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, it's by Bill Burnett and Dave Evans.
Okay.
And it's basically about applying design principles to your career,
I like that.
which I think is such a cool concept.
Yeah, it's not just about finding a job. It's about designing a life you love.
Right. And then there's another book called The Squiggly Career,
The Squiggly Career.
which I love that title.
Yeah.
And it's by Helen Tupper and Sarah Ellis.
Okay.
And it basically challenges the idea of a traditional linear career path,
Interesting.
which I think is so relevant nowadays
Yeah.
because, you know, like the job market is changing so rapidly and
Yeah.
people are, you know, having multiple careers throughout their lifetime.
Multiple careers.
So it's not like you just go to school, get a job, and stay there for 40 years.
Right. It's much more fluid now.
Yeah, it's much more fluid. So
Yeah.
I think that book is really helpful
I like that.
for kind of reframing how we think about careers.
Yeah.
And then there are a couple of apps that are mentioned as well.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of Strength Finder?
I have, actually. I've taken the StrengthsFinder assessment.
Oh, cool. What did you think?
It was really interesting.
Yeah.
It kind of breaks down your top 5 talent themes,
Oh, wow.
which are essentially your unique strengths.
Okay.
And so it can be really helpful in terms of, figuring out what you're naturally good at.
Right. And like what kind of careers might be a good fit.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And then another app that's mentioned is LinkedIn Learning.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah. Have you used it?
I've browsed around on there, but I haven't taken any courses.
Yeah, I haven't either, but it looks really cool.
It does.
Like they have courses on everything.
Yeah, a huge variety of topics.
Yeah, from like technical skills to soft skills.
Right.
So I think that's a really good resource for people who are, wanting to learn new things
Absolutely.
or just kind of brush up on their existing skills.
Upskill.
Yeah. And then one last tip that I thought was really interesting from the source
Okay.
is to just dedicate 10 minutes each day.
10 minutes a day.
Yeah, to like exploring career options or networking with people.
I love that.
Yeah, it's like making it a habit
Making it a habit.
instead of like this big overwhelming thing.
Right. It's just part of your routine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we move on,
Hi.
I want to talk about Sarah.
Sarah.
Remember Sarah?
Tell me.
So the source uses Sarah's story as a real-life example
Oh, cool.
of how someone used these 5 steps
Okay.
to find a fulfilling career.
Okay. I'm interested to hear about this.
So Sarah was working as a marketing manager,
Okay.
but she felt really unfulfilled.
Okay.
Like she wasn't passionate about it.
Yeah.
It wasn't what she wanted to be doing.
Right.
And so she decided to take action.
Good for her.
And she started by identifying her passion,
Which was,
which was writing and storytelling.
oh, wow.
She always loved to write, but she had never really considered it as a career.
Right.
So she took a copywriting course
Yeah.
to kind of like build her skill.
So hone her skills, yeah.
Yeah, and she started freelancing on the side
Oh, cool.
while she was still working her marketing job.
That's a great way to kind of test the waters.
Yeah, and eventually she was able to transition into a full-time content creation career,
Wow, that's amazing.
which she
Next thought.
absolutely loves.
That's so great to hear.
Yeah, and I think her story is so inspiring
It is.
because it shows that it's never too late
Yeah,
to pursue work that you're truly passionate about.
absolutely.
And that, sometimes you have to create your own opportunities. Like,
Yes.
she didn't just wait for her dream job to fall into her lap.
Right.
She took initiative and she made it happen.
That's so important.
Yeah.
You have to be proactive.
Yeah,
And you have to create your own luck sometimes.
exactly.
Yeah.
So as we're wrapping up this exploration of the 5 steps
Okay.
and the accompanying tools and resources,
Hmm.
what are your key takeaways?
You know what stands out to me is that
Yeah.
this process is really about self-discovery.
Yes.
It's about understanding yourself,
Yeah.
your passions, your skills, your values.
And it's ongoing.
And it's ongoing.
Yeah.
It's not like a one-time thing.
Right.
You have to constantly be checking in with yourself.
And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck.
Yeah.
Is they think like, oh, I figured out my career, I'm good.
Yeah.
But then like 5 years later, they're miserable.
Right. Because things change.
Things change. You change.
You change.
The world changes.
The world changes, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's important to be adaptable
Yeah.
and to be open to new possibilities.
Yeah. So what resonated most with you from all this?
I really like the emphasis on taking small steps
Yeah.
and celebrating small wins.
Yes.
Because I think that's so important for staying motivated
Yes.
and for not getting overwhelmed.
It's like that saying, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
I love that.
It's so true.
So what are you feeling inspired to do?
I think I'm going to revisit my passions
Okay.
and see if anything has changed
Yeah.
since the last time I really sat down and thought about it.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. And maybe I'll try out that StrengthsFinder assessment,
Yeah, me too.
see what that's all about.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Yeah. And to remember, you don't have to figure everything out right now.
Right.
It's a journey.
It's a journey.
And it's okay to take your time
Take your time.
and explore different options.
Explore.
The important thing is to keep moving forward.
Keep moving forward.
It's easy to get caught up in the steps,
Right.
and the resources and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to take a step back
Okay.
and really visualize, what does success actually look like for you?
I love that.
What does your dream career actually feel like?
Yeah. It's about connecting with the emotional aspect of it.
Yeah. It's not just about finding a job. It's about finding work that brings you joy and purpose and fulfillment.
So let's try a little visualization exercise here.
Okay.
Close your eyes for a second and imagine
Okay.
you found your dream career.
All right.
What does your typical day look like?
Okay.
What are you doing? Who are you surrounded by?
Really immerse yourself in this vision.
Yeah.
What are you wearing? What sounds do you hear? What are the smells?
Right, like really try to make it as vivid as possible.
The more senses you engage, the more real it becomes.
And most importantly, how do you feel when you wake up in the morning? Are you excited to start the day?
That's the question.
Yeah.
Do you feel energized and motivated?
Do you feel a sense of purpose and accomplishment?
That feeling, that's what we're ultimately searching for.
That's it.
Yeah. It's not about the job title or the paycheck.
Right.
It's about finding work that aligns with your passions, your values,
Yeah.
and your unique strengths.
It's about making those 90,000 hours count.
Make them count.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I want you to hold on to that vision.
Hold on to it.
Let it guide you as you explore different career paths
Mm-hmm.
and make decisions about your future. And remember, finding your dream career is possible.
It is.
It's a journey, and it might not always be easy,
Right.
but it's a journey worth taking.
Absolutely.
And you have the power to start shaping your future right now.
Right now.
So take those small steps, trust the process,
Trust the process.
and never stop exploring.
Never stop exploring. Your dream career is out there waiting for you.
Until next time, keep diving deep and keep dreaming big.
Keep dreaming big.